Hello everybody, it's Dr. Stuart A. Swordlow.
And Janet Diane Moya Swordlow.
And this is the Expansions News Podcast for the third week of February 2019. And please excuse the whining and crying of the dogs because they want to go outside, they want to go for a walk, but the weather is rotten and they cannot go, so they're a little bit frustrated. So you'll just have to deal with the noise in the background. Anything else you need to say?
Mm-mm.
All right, so let me continue because I have some interesting news. Most of it is political. And the first thing I want to start with is with the disgraced former acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe, who has provided clear evidence that in 2017, a small group of high-level officials attempted to remove the president, Donald Trump, from office, and they claimed that the top of the FBI and the Department of Justice held multiple discussions about invoking the Constitution's 25th Amendment to declare the president unfit for office and install a vice president in his place. And actually this is proof of a bloodless coup. Well, maybe they wanted it to be bloodless, but it probably would not have been, which existed within the government. And McCabe previously has provided false information to the Department of Justice, and the statements he now makes may be very well to promote his new book, so he can get higher sales. The 25th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution provides for a way to remove a president who is unable to perform the duties of the office. In other words, mental incompetence, physical problems, and so on. The vice president and the majority of cabinet officers must agree in writing that the president is unable to discharge the duties of the office. Now, besides all this, the government bureaucrats thought it was acceptable to lie to the FISA court by vouching for an unverified dossier, illegally leak information to the media that there's an existence of a Russian investigation, which basically came to nothing. Well, I'll cut right to the bottom line of all of this. I have understood from certain sources that Mr. McCabe has been investigated and in fact is undergoing trial secretly for treason. And what he's doing now, he's purposely told to do so that he can expose himself to the public as a treasonous person. So when he is prosecuted publicly, eventually the public will understand what he did. And by the way, this is treason, and it was masterminded by none other than Hillary and Mr. Obama and their heinous demonic crew. Now let's go to another demonic story. Former Milwaukee Sheriff David Clark says he's not buying the explanation that Jussie Smollett staged his own hate crime merely for a pay rise, arguing that the actor was on a political mission, and I completely agree with this. According to Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson, Smollett staged the crime because he was dissatisfied with his salary, so he concocted a story about being attacked. I don't know how that would raise his salary, but he was making about $125,000 per episode. I would be happy with that. If you gave me $125,000 for this podcast every time we did it,
I'd be thrilled.
I'd be even half of that. I'd be very happy.
Hey, yeah.
According to Sheriff David Clark, the salary explanation just doesn't add up. Quote, "I'm not buying that Jussie Smollett staged his hoax due to a salary dispute with Fox Studios. I'm not that gullible, and don't you fall for it either. Smollett was on a political mission for the left. He's part of the slimy Hollywood elite." Absolutely agree, and I'm going to tell you in a minute. Clark also suggested that the FBI was about to announce an investigation into Smollett and that the actor could be facing 5 to 10 years in prison for mail fraud after allegedly mailing a racist letter to himself. This boy has a lot of issues. I'm going to say right now, Smollett was friends with Obama, and if you go to qmap.pub, you will see a picture of Mr. Smollett with Obama and Michelle and all the cronies, and they're very lovey-dovey with each other. He was put up to do this, to attack Trump, and he's part of the Democratic/deep state who are desperate to attack the current status because they know they're about to be prosecuted and put in prison. Let's go to another treasonous person. Representative, and I just don't even want to use that name, Ilhan Omar, has attended a travel delegation to a South American country sponsored by a radical anti-American and anti-Israeli organization called Witness for Peace, and this is according to Fox News. The group supports our the enemies of the U.S. and calls for the return of Guantanamo Naval Base to Cuba. The anti-Semitic congresswoman recently stood up for Venezuelan Democratic Socialist Nicolas Maduro, a dictator who is starving his own people and won't accept humanitarian aid. In fact, he recently, just yesterday, closed the border with Colombia, closed the border with Brazil, stopped all routes to Curacao so that no aid could come to Venezuela to help the starving people. Sounds like a nice guy to me. Sounds like I want to be under that socialistic regime. Omar serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and is a danger to the country. She is the enemy within. Here's a question. How could she get on such a committee after being elected for 5 minutes? It's a setup, people. She's a freaking setup. And Omar supports terrorist groups, and she's associated with terrorist groups. Farrakhan, who is vile, and is part of all anti-American groups. My question, for those of you, I believe she's from Minnesota, who voted for her? I want all of you in Minnesota to stand up and raise your hand and say, I voted for that B. Here's the next one. We'll just keep on going. Again, I hate to use this term, but representative. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, henceforth known as AOC, recently moved into a luxury apartment complex in Washington, D.C. that does not offer affordable housing to poor people. Ocasio-Cortez, who's only 29 years old, but acts like she's like 2, said in November that she was concerned about being able to afford rent in D.C., but she now earns a $174,000 annual salary and is living in a newly built high-rise in the city's Navy Yard area. The self-described socialist campaigned on a platform to expand affordable housing, and her stupid Green New Deal proposal that would bankrupt the earth. And she promised safe, affordable, adequate housing for all. But AOC's new building, built by a developer, W.C. Smith, is part of a luxury complex whose owners specifically do not offer affordable units under Washington, D.C.'s Affordable Dwelling Units program. AOC says repeatedly criticized luxury real estate developers during her campaign, claiming that their buildings hiked up rent prices and pushed low-income residents out of their neighborhoods. But she's living in one now. She said, and I quote, "We need to kick luxury real estate lobbyists to the curb and defend working people's way of life. Skyrocketing costs of living is a national crisis that can be addressed. It's not just a New York City issue. It's happening in every U.S. metro area." But AOC also promised not to take campaign contributions from luxury developers during her campaign. And she said, "It's time we stand up to the luxury developer lobby. Every official is too scared to do it except me." Yeah, because now she's living in one of their buildings. Her new apartment complex, which boasts on its website that it vows to take luxury apartment living to a higher level, offers 100,000 square feet of amenities for its residents. For example, 2 private massage rooms with state-of-the-art hydrotherapy beds, men's and women's saunas, a full-scale demonstration kitchen with wood-fire pizza oven. You'd like that. A 25-meter indoor lap pool, a rooftop infinity pool with panoramic views of the Capitol, a Peloton cycling studio with over a dozen bikes, and a fireside lounge featuring a Steinway and Sons player piano. It also includes, get this, a PGA-grade golf simulation lounge with a wraparound screen and viewing bar that allows residents to play virtually at dozens of the world's most exclusive golf courses with the touch of a button. Last week, the Democrats mocked President Trump for installing a new golf simulator at the White House. But here she is with even a better one. Apartments in her building start at $1,840 a month for a 440 square foot studio. That's like nothing. But $5,200 for a 3-bedroom. So she's a liar, a hypocrite, and a setup like her friend Omar. Both should be expelled. And in fact, Omar should not only be expelled, but she should be expatriated back to Somalia, where she should work for her own people and help the people in Somalia who basically have no government and nothing. Go there, Omar. That's where you belong. And AOC also has caused harm to her home state of New York because by expelling the Amazon complex, New York State lost 25,000 jobs, $4 billion in income, and $3 billion in tax revenue. So my question to both Minnesota and New York, who voted for these morons? Now, let's go to the Middle East a little bit. A 2017 article in the Muslim Times noted that there's certainly room, they said, at the site of the Al-Aqsa Mosque to create a third temple for the Jews. The Muslims said this. And the editor, Dr. Zia Shah, suggested a multi-story structure to maximize the space. He says, and I quote, "Every Jewish, Christian, and Muslim denomination that has a sizable presence in Israel gets a floor in the plaza free of charge. They can have a synagogue, church, or mosque, and in return, they provide a public relations campaign to make the project a success. The state of Israel gets to choose the leaders of these denominations and gives Benjamin Netanyahu a stake in the process. But Dr. Mordecai Kedar, who is a lecturer at the Department of Arabic Issues at Bar-Ilan University, said the plan would be unacceptable to mainstream Islam. He says, and I quote, "There is no way in Islam to accept such a plan. The essence of Islam is that Judaism and Christianity are no longer relevant in the world, and that Islam replaces both of them." Jewish sources describe, now this is the very interesting part, that in the end of days, the descendants of Ishmael, now remember, Abraham had two sons, Isaac, who became the father of the Jews, and Ishmael became the father of the Arabs. The descendants of Ishmael will have a place and a purpose on the Temple Mount. A surprisingly detailed description of the Messianic process is given in the Zohar, a collection of previously unpublished manuscripts pertaining to the Zohar, printed in the late 16th century, says they describe the process that will begin in the 274th year of the 6th millennium. And this works out to be the year 5774 in the Hebrew calendar, which began in September 2013. That's the Western version. Part of the process described included a destruction in a synagogue in the south in which 5 tzaddikim, or righteous men, would be killed. And indeed, in November 2014, two Palestinian terrorists armed with knives, guns, and axes carried out a bloody attack in the Har Nof synagogue on November 18, 2014. 4 Jews were killed in the attack, as well as Zidan Saif, a Druze policeman. In the following year, Rabbi Chaim Rothman died from the wounds suffered in the attack, bringing the death toll to 5, precisely as predicted more than 400 years earlier. The same prophecy is repeated in other sources, adding that the sons of Ishmael, or the Arabs, will make war against the Messiah and then will come to bow down before God at the holy mountain in Jerusalem. Now here's an interesting fact also. Ishmael was circumcised when he was 13 years old.
I'll say that would hurt.
Yeah, no wonder they're freaking angry. And it's explained that for every year of his life before the circumcision, his descendants inherit 100 years on the Temple Mount. The Dome of the Rock was built in 648 AD, and they lost control of the Holy Land in 1947, exactly 1,300 years later. Very fascinating, don't you think?
I think so.
The Zohar is quite amazing, and I have been teaching the Zohar in my last 2 week-long classes, and I'll be teaching a very special version of it this September. You don't even know about that, but I will be. I found out. Now, according to a very holy Hebrew prophet named Rambam, it was preferable that Muslims should be on the Temple Mount because the Catholic religion has elements of idolatry, and the Muslim presence on the temple protected it from idolatry, because Muslims don't believe in idolatry, but Catholics
do.
Yeah. They prayed up statues. But the Muslim lease to the Temple Mount was finished in 1947.
Can you see both of them?
But I just mentioned that the Temple Mount was finished in 1947. Now, interesting that it talks about the name Ishmael, which comes from the Hebrew Yishmael, God will hear. Did you know that? That's very interesting, because most, Arabic language comes from actually the Semitic Hebrew language. Anyway, so Yishmael, God will hear Ishmael. So this is a part of the prophecies that are happening now. And speaking of such things about coming up, more than 200 astronomers in 18 countries created a radio sky survey called the Low Frequency Array Telescope, known as LOFAR. And LOFAR is an incredibly sensitive radio survey. And guess what it just recently discovered?
Aliens.
Well, it discovered 300,000 new galaxies.
Wow.
Not that they're new, it's just that we just realized that they're there. So 300,000 new galaxies discovered. How many planets? Millions of planets.
At least billions.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. And now some more science news, which actually happened a long time ago, but now they're finally releasing it, and it proves my story about the inner Earth.
Yeah?
Because geophysicists from Princeton University and the Chinese Academy of Sciences used echoes of a massive earthquake that struck Bolivia 2 decades ago to get a topography deep beneath the surface. On the 9th of June 1994, an 8.2 magnitude tremor rocked a sparsely populated region of the Amazon in Bolivia. Nothing this powerful has been seen in decades, with shocks being felt as far away as Canada. Did you feel it? I don't remember that.
What year was it?
1994.
Yeah, no, didn't feel it.
The waves coursing through the boundary of the Earth and then meeting a point between the mantle's upper and lower parts, which is very significant. There's a zigzag mountain range that puts anything on the surface to shame, which means, like, here's the surface, then the shock waves went down, and then they found the other direction. So what does that mean? How could there be mountains unless there's an opening?
Well, the thing is, they already know, but now they're having to explain it to people.
It says, in other words, stronger topography than the Rocky Mountains or the Appalachians is present at 660 kilometers under the Earth.
How many miles is that?
Like 1,000, a little over 1,000 miles. There's a chance that these mountains are bigger than anything on the surface of the Earth. And people, that is the proof of the hollow Earth. Now, for all of those of you who think that there is global warming.
Isn't there?
No, because you know what? Snow is falling this week in Southern California and below freezing temperatures there. Snowfall was reported in communities from Simi Valley, your cousin lives in Simi Valley, to Malibu. Hello, shouldn't they be surfing under palm trees? To Calabasas, to Valencia, to the Inland Empire. Inland Empire is the desert area. A storm also unloaded 3 feet of snow and blizzard conditions and shut down travel over the mountains of Arizona, New Mexico, and southwestern Colorado. Las Vegas picked up 4 inches of snow, that's 10 centimeters. Snow was falling in the mountains surrounding Los Angeles and included Pasadena and West Hollywood, where I used to do my work. Remember West Hollywood? So, guess what what reminded me of? Back in the 1970s, like when I was a fetus, I wasn't even, was a fetus. I went into a bookstore and I saw this book, a fiction book, and it was like a picture of a blizzard in Hollywood, like the Hollywood sign and the palm trees, and it said, Ice Age coming, snowstorm in LA. I'm like, yeah, right. It just happened.
You mean it was a
book it was a 40 years ago.
A fiction book.
Yeah, but it's happening. So whoever wrote that, they knew something. So yeah, an Ice Age is coming. So hope you can deal with that, Al Gore.
Yeah. Well, I have a few stories today.
Only a few.
Only a few. So the first one I wanted to tell you about is Bernie Sanders.
Oh yeah, Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
He's a brainiac.
Well, he's officially entered the 2020 presidential race.
He should enter a nursing home.
But what was interesting about his campaign... Oops, who we got back here? He wants to come up. Come here.
Don't put the leg. Here we go.
Here we go.
You got him. To the feet. He wants to do a news story. I'll tell you. Read this. Go ahead.
He's not allowed up here, so... So anyway, he's the one that's having a crazy time.
He's not doing well today. He's very upset about not having to go outside.
Yeah. Anyway, so the thing that was interesting about Bernie Sanders' campaign is that, listen to this, he said his 2016 campaign began the political revolution, and now it's time to complete the revolution and implement the vision that we fought for. So we talked
about...
What's
the vision that he...
The point is the word revolution, because we've been talking about revolution for quite some time.
Well, my family is known for revolution.
But what's interesting right now is that early polls, supposedly, show him ahead of the rest of the pack, except for former Vice President Joe Biden.
I'll translate. The polls that he created in his house.
Not maybe, but that's...
He asked his pets and his cats if they vote for him.
But I did find it interesting that he's talking about the revolution.
Nobody wants him. He's an old coot.
But he's putting out that word revolution, and that's what I tell you to watch. Then the next story that I had was kind of like, but I wanted to do it, kind of pull a few things together. That Chelsea Clinton is defending Malia Obama.
Of course she is.
Now,
they're both ugly.
The first 3 letters, Mal means bad in many languages.
Her name is Malia.
Malia. Anyway, it was rumored she had a secret Facebook page.
And by the way, she's not their child. She was stolen.
Yeah, she looks like a male as well.
And she has no... breasts.
But speaking of breasts, now I could not go back and find that, but we saw a picture of another young woman fondling her breasts.
Yeah, what was that about?
But then I went back to look for it, I couldn't find that.
I know, I should have copied that when I saw that.
Yeah, and then, like I said, she supposedly had the secret Facebook page, which was putting down, Trump.
Hates Trump. But yeah, I wonder who told her to do that.
And then this article also said that Chelsea Clinton also was defending 12-year-old Barron Trump when he had an issue, and then, how do you say her name again? Malia. Also was shown drinking...
How come they don't ever talk about the other adopted sister?
That's my point, is that this Malia is in the news consistently.
Always drinking, smoking, doing bad things.
Right. And
like her father.
Right, and like I said...
her fake father.
The Malia, the M-A-L, apparently they're imprinting you with that. But anyway, so I just wanted to bring that out if you haven't seen it. And then speaking of things that are fake... It's all over the news that Meghan Markle's baby bump is fake and that they're using a surrogate.
First of all, how could she travel all over the place in her 7th month?
Right, and the palace wouldn't let her.
Her legs look thin, and she's wearing high heels, and everything looks like she's just, thin.
But the other weird thing is, and it's true because they're talking about it, is she's always like holding
because
this.
Because this thing is very odd. She's afraid it's going to fall off.
Yeah, no pregnant woman is going to walk around like this all the time unless she's told to do it for some reason.
Did you do that ever?
No.
Were you fake pregnant?
No, I was real pregnant.
Wow.
But what's also interesting is that according to a source, they said that she told her previous ex-husband that she could not even get pregnant.
Really?
So now people are again saying that it's, it's a surrogate that's carrying their babies, which I happen to feel that all along.
You always said that.
And I believe that there will be twins because at her age, 37, they'll have twins and it'll be a big deal and then it'll be done.
Then who's going to change the nasty nappies?
Well, her nanny people. And then speaking again of interesting stories. Now, a lot of people say to me, why do you keep bringing up this trans stuff?
Yeah, why do you?
And the reason I keep bringing it up because it gets continually more bizarre, and this is part of your world, whether you like it or you don't like it. So I think you need to be educated on what the bizarre stories are.
You're going to educate their dumb selves?
I am. Whether you want to be educated or not, a lot of people say, oh, we go this far and turn it off. Fine, turn it off. Because
you're going to slap some knowledge on them?
Here we go. There's a pose, I guess that's the name of a television, some kind of show.
I wouldn't know.
The star is named India Moore and says that trans women's penises are biologically female.
Wait. These are men that want to be women or women who want to be men?
Well, it's a man that I guess has like a penis sewn on. I mean, no, it's a woman that would have a penis sewn onto her.
You have that sewn on.
Well,
it's not like a sweater.
Yeah, it's like a transplant thing, I guess. Or they build it maybe out of her material. I'm not sure. But it says if a woman has a penis, her penis is biologically a female penis. So that's opposed to they're saying like a non-artificial or like a artificial penis would be like a dildo or a vibrator.
Just stop. Just stop right there.
Yeah.
Just go on.
So she's saying reproductive parts and chromosomes define the biology of your gender, but not your gender. So these are
the chromosomes do not define your gender?
They define the biology of your gender, but not the gender.
That's the same freaking thing, okay? These people are morons.
So she says that gender and sex cannot be biologically defined in absolutes because gender is a biological spectrum.
No, it isn't.
So my point being is this is what's being put out there, and this is how the children are being educated, and you need to know what's going on.
Why is that allowed? And and then other things are not allowed. That makes sense.
Okay, so this is just one person. So following on that, in Europe, in the UK, there is a case where a government lawyer says that a mother is no longer a gender-specific term preserved only for women. And in fact, you can have a male mother.
Really?
And this is part of the confusion and mind control that they're doing to people.
Oh my goodness, that is nuts.
There's a transgender
What country was that from?
UK,
of course.
A transgender man born a woman gave birth to a child. Now they seek to be named the child's father, which therefore would make the baby legally motherless.
Wait, he was born a woman.
Had a baby. Now he's a man.
So let me bottom line. He's a woman.
Yes.
So he's a mom.
Well, she's a...
Gave birth to a baby. She's a mom.
She's a female. But now they're saying that they want to call it a male mother. This is in
Don't listen, Jade.
This
very
is in
bad
the courts. So now they're saying being a mother is no longer necessarily a gendered term.
Of course not.
A man can be a mother. And in this case... This mother is a mother. He has chosen to give birth to and lovingly raise the child. So if the child is determined motherless and the parent the father, then the parent can be called the male mother, which therefore removes motherhood from the privilege of biological motherhood.
You gotta stop. It's like you're making this up.
I know. That's why I'm explaining this to you, that it's crazy. And it's not
Who thinks of these
just
things?
Some weird person. It's
I mean, seriously.
It's governments now that are agreeing, which means telling you it's part of the agenda. So, not only that, in France, believe it or not, they voted to replace the words mother and father with parent 1 and parent 2, which I didn't think was quite as bad.
How about calling Macron and his wife thing 1 and thing 2?
Yeah, but anyway, so they're saying that it's an article is a measure of social equality.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
No wonder the aliens are going to take over. They should.
And then, I have to tell you of this gender craziness, that in New Zealand there's a chocolate maker called Whittaker, and they've been criticized because they put out something called a coconut ice surprise block for these gender reveal parties that people have these days. So it comes in pink or blue, and when you eat it, I guess you find out if the baby's going to be a male or female.
But how could you do that now? There's 50 million genders.
Well, that's what they're saying. They're saying that gender reveal parties are outdated, which they barely began because they didn't have them when we had our children. Anyway.
Gave birth to that. Does it have a penis or a vagina? Oh, that's what it is. Thank you.
No, you can't tell. You can't say
Very
that
simple.
these days. No, it's not so simple these days. Now, it says that people criticize the candy because it erases intersex, transgender, gender non-binary, and gender fluid people. Blah. Gender reveal parties are weird because they presuppose two genders and also that you can determine a baby's gender by its genitals.
Really? Because that's only happened for 1 billion years.
Yeah. So anyway, I just think that was interesting. So speaking about another interesting child type story. The Vatican's secret rules for Catholic priests who have children. Apparently, this man named Vincent Doyle, who's a psychotherapist in Ireland, I don't know how old he is now, but he was 28 years old when he found out that his godfather, who was a Roman Catholic priest, was actually his biological father.
Huh.
So then, when he went to investigate from the church about it, he found out that they actually have a doctrine in the Vatican to tell us how to deal with priests who father children.
I told you about my grandfather.
Well, you can tell it again.
He was a plumber in the monastery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was from Romania. And the
monastery or the nunnery?
Oh, the convent.
Yeah.
It was a convent. He was a plumber for them. And the Mother Superior would sometimes call in the middle of the night for him to come, because the toilet was clogged with fetuses and abortions that the nuns would do in the toilet, clogged it. Yeah. And she made him swear never to tell anybody.
Right.
But of course he told my grandmother, so she told everybody.
And now you're telling the world.
And now I'm telling everybody, because it's like 100 years ago.
Yes. So anyway, Vincent Doyle decided to create a global support group to help other children, even though he was told it was more like an isolated case. However, the Vatican now confirms for the first time that its department actually oversees the world's priests with a general guideline for what to do when clerics break celibacy vows and father children.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
About 80% of the priests are gay. So this is really just like 20%.
Well, according to Mr. Doyle, his support group that he started called Coping International has 50,000 people using it in 175 countries. So it's apparently a lot.
These are the children.
Well, it's for the children, so we can't say these are the children. But he has 50,000 people using it. So how many people that have never heard of it before are existing like him? He said that he's actually was told they're called the children of the ordained by the church. And he said he was shocked that they had a term for it. Now, interestingly enough, Pope Francis wrote a book while he was still Archbishop in Buenos Aires. In 2010...
And turning in people to the military junta. Go on.
In 2010, he wrote this book called On Heaven and Earth, and there he says that a priest who in a moment of passion violates a vow of celibacy could potentially stay in the ministry, but one who fathers a child could not. But they have a lot of proof that these priests who father children still stay priests.
Yeah, duh.
And they leave, I don't know what happens to their children, but they said that children of priests are increasingly turning to DNA tests to prove that their parents are either priests or nuns.
Oof.
So this is going to be the next big scandal in the church, apparently.
Imagine having a mother who's a nun.
Well,
Then you can't call it a mother because maybe it's a priest who became a nun.
yeah. And then the next thing I wanted to tell you, which has to do with your diet, which I thought was very interesting. However, maybe I'm just out of the loop. Maybe you've heard of this. Have you heard of orthorexia?
That's very disgusting.
Have you? Okay, apparently healthy eating can be taken too far. I've actually seen people do that. These people become unusually preoccupied with eating the right food and feel guilty or shameful for eating the wrong food. And that can be this problem called orthorexia. So that's when a person has an obsession with healthful eating, and if they're so fixated on choosing healthy or pure foods to the point that they limit what they will even eat.
Well, maybe I have that.
They demonize certain ingredients or food groups they deem unhealthy, leaving only a small range of foods that they'll actually eat, which can cause weight loss, but not necessarily, as well as nutritional deficiencies, and also lead to anxiety, stress, social isolation, blah, blah.
I had that.
So, anyway, apparently this term orthorexia was actually coined in 1998. But
Sounds
now,
like maybe it's like an old-fashioned dinosaur.
Maybe.
Orthorexia.
But there I have signs and symptoms, so you can tell me if this relates to you. Compulsive checking of ingredients lists and nutritional labels.
I do that.
An increase in concern about the health of ingredients.
Yes.
Cutting out an increasing number of foods. All sugar, all carbs, all dairy, all meat, all animal products.
Well, no, I eat the meat.
And carbs and some dairy and some sugar.
Sometimes. No sugar.
Yes, carbs are sugar.
Stop it.
An inability to eat anything but a narrow group of foods that are deemed healthy or pure.
Yes.
Unusual interest in the health of what others are eating.
No, I don't care about that.
Spending hours per day thinking about what food might be served at upcoming events.
No.
Showing high levels of distress when safe or healthy foods are not available.
No.
Obsessive following of food and healthy lifestyle blogs on the internet.
No.
And your body image concerns.
Yes, I do have that.
Right,
So I have some of those.
But anyway, so orthorexia.
So I'm semi-orthorexic.
Well, I don't think so. And now next story was very interesting. This is my last one. It's about, you know how people are always looking for what is the latest thing, you know, that causes long life. Mm-hmm. Well, apparently the Okinawa Islands, which stretch across the East China Sea, that the older inhabitants enjoy the longest life expectancy of anyone on Earth, and most of them are very healthy. For every 100,000 inhabitants, Okinawa has 68 centenarians, which is more than 3 times the numbers found in the U.S., and by even its standards, they have a 40% greater chance of living to 100 than other Japanese people. So scientists are studying, and guess what they found out that's different about their diet?
They eat bugs.
They have a high ratio of carbohydrates to protein. Remember, carbohydrates are sugar, which body needs sugar, with a particular abundance of sweet potato as the source of most of their calories. It's the opposite of current popular diets that advocate high-protein, low-carb diets.
I don't consider sweet potato to be a real carb.
It is
it's
a real
starch.
carb. No, it's a carb. It turns to sugar in your body. It's a carb. So what's interesting is that, and starch is like you think of potatoes and whatnot, all those are sugar. So anyway, what's interesting to me is they're always coming out with these fad diets. So my feeling is watch for the next, it's probably going to be like a sweet potato diet or something.
I don't like sweet potatoes so much.
I like sweet potatoes, but I wouldn't want to make it my primary sugar source.
They're really fried and crispy.
So according to these findings, a low-protein, high-carbohydrate diet sets off various physiological responses that protect people from various age-related illnesses, including cancer, cardiovascular disease, and Alzheimer's. So there you have it. Every time you turn around, they've got a new diet for you to follow.
Yep.
And speaking of following, I'm hoping that all of you have liked our page on the Yakushin Laikas, Princess Jasmine of the Caucasus, and Jade Emperor. We have a new Facebook page. We're already over 600 likes.
Face.
And they're beautiful
Look
dogs.
At this face. The vet, we saw, took him to the vet yesterday.
Yeah, they're first
beautiful.
Yeah, and they're beautiful. They're very loving. They're very sweet.
He has white eyelashes, too.
Yeah, and he wants to go outside in the worst way and take a walk.
We're not going to go today.
But we can't because the weather is very inclement outside. So he doesn't understand that, even though I've told him many, many times.
Well, I did try to shovel or scoop their poop today.
Yeah.
It was still frozen to the ground, and I couldn't get it.
But he's very sweet and loving, you can see. He's a good boy. He's a good boy.
He makes frozen poop.
Yeah, but he's the one that's doing all the whining that you hear in the background. Jasmine is being very good over with all the
And
bones.
sometimes I'm the one that's doing the whining.
You're usually the one that's doing the whining. So, anyway, please like, comment, and share our Facebook pages, our YouTube channels, and our puppy's Facebook page.
Yeah, and don't forget we have the webinars starting in March.
Wednesdays in March, self-healing group, which we have great response to.
And March 9th and 10th, I'm doing a seminar in Quito, Ecuador.
Yeah.
And then the end of March, March 31 to April 3, I was invited to the Bahamas to do a live radio show with the next Prime Minister of the Bahamas. And then, at the end of May, I was invited to Medellin, Colombia to do a, I don't know, drug dealer or something.
When is it?
End of May.
Oh, okay. And then in June is our trip to the Cotian Alps.
Right.
To walk the ways of the Waldensian people. Fantastic.
Yeah, and then end of October.
Can we say more about that trip or not?
Go on.
Are you more excited about what you've
I
got
am.
coming up?
I really don't care where you're going.
Yeah. So anyway, if you're interested in studying the ways of the Waldensian people, this is a trip that you want to make. We haven't closed off the registration yet, but we're going to be closing that soon. And we're putting our reservations down now for the hotels and the van and all the other things that are happening out there. And if you don't sign up within, I don't know what is today. Probably within about
that third week of February.
You probably got about another
2 weeks.
Well, we might give them until the 1st of April, and we're going to have to close the registration. So, and then now back to you.
Yeah, back to me. End of October, we just received a letter from the government of St. Kitts and Nevis because Cuba, we were supposed to do that event in Cuba, and we still will do it, but now it's been postponed till 2020 because Cuba is very slow in doing what I asked them to do. And when they did do what I asked them to do, it wasn't what I said they should be doing. So we are moving the event to October to St. Kitts and Nevis, who have just sent out the letter of invitation to Steven Seagal and the Russian Foreign Ministry, and that is now in process. So it's happening in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'll give you more details as the time comes up. And I just finished writing 2 new whole books, which Janet is going to edit any minute.
Mm-hmm. So our plan is we have actually 3 books minimum, so we need to get out this year. But right now we're busy with kitties and puppies and
Stewie,
all kinds of things. So we're doing our best to get everything out, since basically it's just 2 of us that doing what we do. So with that said, like I said, please like, comment, and share. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We know that people are not getting notified when the new YouTube channel podcasts come out, so please, you've got to let your people know.
There's a lot of censorship. Twitter has attacked, or people on Twitter have attacked anyone who even talks about you. And they attacked them this week. A lot of stuff is going to be happening very soon. Prosecutions. You'll see. I told you so. Prepare.
So until next time.
Bye.
Bye.